Hi everyone, I am Amy, your hidden consumer expert, and today we're going to actually talk about alcohol and France. I do want to start this off by saying I know not everybody can drink. I know there are issues with alcohol abuse, understand, um, but from the perspective of someone who deals with anything from food sensitivities to food allergies, alcohol is the first thing they just drop. There's too many risks associated with drinking alcohol, especially if it's United States alcohol versus anywhere else in the country or in the world, excuse me, in the world. So let's talk about this. And this is something I just made the assumption that everything was the same. I should know better. I know food is different everywhere. Why would alcohol be any different? Um, so here's what I discovered with my travels in France is it blew my mind how distinctly different the practices of making wine, whiskey, cognac are so different than here in the United States. So a little backstory is, and if you want the full backstory, pre-order the book. Um, but when I do enjoy wine, and when I was diagnosed with corn, I lost so many things in my diet. Everything. I was down to rice and steaks, and I had some safe ground beef, and then whatever fresh vegetables I could get in season from my CSA. I didn't have anything else. No sweets, no sugars, nothing. So I made a commitment to myself. There were four things I was going to keep: coffee, tea, chocolate, and wine. And those four things were not easy to get back into my diet. And matter of fact, it took a good year just to find safe coffee. Tea took 2 years. Chocolate took 2 to 3 years. And wine was hit or miss. And it wasn't until I moved to California that I really started to understand what was going on. And even now, there's still things I'm learning. And I'm over a decade into this problem. 13, yeah, I'm 12 years into this. So, and I learned so much more because I went to France. So, this is why we need to travel. Um, when I do imbibe and I drink wine, and I do have a couple of wine clubs, very few memberships can cater to my needs, so I don't join wine clubs a lot. American wine, I have to talk to the vintner. I have to know exactly how the wine was aged and barreled. I have to know how long it was aged and barreled. Um, and there are just a lot of things that go into my wine drinking. So I don't drink whites. I have a unicorn Chardonnay, which I may have talked about in the past, that it is fermented and aged in barrel. So we're looking at 2+ years, which I need a minimum of 12 months in a barrel. Stainless steel does not count because stainless steel is cleaned with citric acid. And what blows my mind is how many people in the industry don't understand that citric acid is made from corn and black mold. When you clean a stainless steel barrel with citric acid, all it's doing is stripping metal off the inside. Very minor. It's not like you're going to notice and go, oh my God, there's a hole in my barrel. That's not how it works. It's a very, very minor layer. When you rinse out the tank afterwards, it doesn't always remove that. And depending on what they're rinsing with, what type of water, what's in that water, it might not still get clean and I get sick. So I don't do anything aged in stainless steel. If it's been in stainless steel and then goes to bottle, doesn't matter. It's the same effect because in the barrel or in a bottle, it gets concentrated even more, right? Instead of expanding out and diluting like it would if it was in an actual barrel or even in the stainless steel tank, in bottle, it stays concentrated. So that means it's not going to remove or dilute what I'm parts per billion sensitive to. So that's part of a lot that goes into my wine drinking. So you're going to see me drinking extremely dry reds, no added sugars. Mega purple is a huge issue, so I had no blends. Um, Blends I thought was part of a histamine issue I have, which was making me wonder if I have mast cell activation disease. But France blew all of this out of the water. And when I mean out of the water, I mean out of the water. I was drinking stainless steel aged blends, whites. Didn't even know how long they were aged, didn't ask. I did not get sick. when I go out, I don't do tastings. I buy a glass of wine and that's all I get. There's nothing else. And if we go to a second vineyard, I have to drink that same type. So if I had a Petite Syrah at Vineyard A, I need to drink the Petite Syrah at Vineyard B because I can't mix. That is how sensitive I am to American wine. France, it did not matter. Oh my goodness. I did in a matter of 3.5 hours. We did two different wine tastings, two different wine bars. We had to walk between the two. It was great. Got some food in between. That's where I had the amazing Italian pizza, by the way, in Colmar, France. So good. But it blew my mind. I literally got to go through a full tasting, no effects. I still, I could have glasses of wine that were not the same. I could have a white, I could have a red, I could have a dessert. Did not matter. And what was really fun is I hate muscat in the United States. I don't like sugar. I don't like overly sweet. So the muscats here are horrendous in my opinion. Um, Plus, they make me uber sick because they're made with moldy corn sugar. Who wants that? I don't. Definitely not me. But Muscat in Colmar, it is a regional grape. So there are specific ways and what they regulations based on that region that they have to follow if they're going to make a true regional wine. So Muscat is traditionally a dry wine. It is not supposed to be sweet. No hint of sugar. If there is sugar, it's the natural sugars from the grape, which wines do have, and they're fantastic. A Gewürztraminer in France is sweet, naturally sweet wine because of the natural sugars in the grape. If you get a Gewürztraminer here in the States, it's extremely dry. They reduce that sugar. Why are we reducing natural sugars is my first question, so we can add in fake sugar. But I I get off the path here. So it was just amazing to me. So a Muscat in Colmar was a aperitif or a appetizer. Think of it like it's your pre-drink before your meal versus here where it's like sugary sweet. You're going to have it with dessert, and hopefully your dessert's a little sour to balance out those flavors. But that again, it was amazing. It was amazing. I don't like a Gewürztraminer in France, and I can't drink it here, which is unfortunate. I prefer dry wines. I really do. So that was great. But we brought home a bottle of, it's called Edville Whisker. It is like whatever's left over from that year's harvest goes into this. So it is a complete white blend. It could be any combination of white grapes in stainless steel, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't get sick. Like typically it takes one sip and I've got a headache or I'm sneezing. There's some kind of reaction. Nothing. No reaction whatsoever. And I tasted whiskey and I tasted cognac because those are things I haven't been able to drink either. Again, they have to be imported for me to imbibe. Again, no issues. So I found another country I can import from if I decide I need to keep a stock of whiskey or cognac on hand. Again, I can't do this in the States because corn is so prevalent. It is such a heavily used lab created ingredient. It is just literally destroying our food. And unfortunately, the research is showing that all those lab created ingredients are really showing to be a cause of multiple health issues in the United States. So not only are we not allowed to have health insurance and 17 million people are being dropped from Medicare, the food we eat is causing us to need to go into the doctor. So one of the things I'm going to be launching later on, hopefully this month still, is really that conversation around how do we keep ourselves safe when we lose our insurance, because you're going to have to change your diet. And it means, can you afford to change your diet is going to be the other conversation, because many Americans can't. We are forced to eat crappy food because it's cheap, it's quick, and there's nothing else we can do. Buying that organic food or buying the fresh vegetables takes time, which we don't have to cook food anymore, and it takes money, which we're not making from the jobs where we spend 60 hours a week working. So we have a major issue here in the United States. And I think that's pretty obvious. So I get into all this in the book. So if you really want to hear my story, hear my the research that went into it from the different medical journals, how they did the peer-reviewed research, what testing was done to determine all that is going to be in the book. And I will be launching on the book website a detailed list of all the sources I used and links to those sources as well. So that is coming. Um, Actually, I could probably get up sooner than I think. I think it's in my advanced reading copy. So with that, the book comes out September 16th. If you have questions, comments, let me know. But this is really where I can show, and if you're a business looking at how do we expand, you're always catering to the same group of people in a wine industry that somebody else is, I can show you how the ingredients you use or don't use can be a benefit to you to attract a different round of clientele that will, and on top of that, I pay more for my wine because of what has to happen. So if you bring in 5 more people, but they pay 5 times more for a bottle, is it worth it? That's the decision you get to make. So let me know if you have questions. You can DM me or message me, and we can go from there. Or check out my website for thehiddenconsumer.com/home. If you click on the link on my book website for About Me, that will take you to my actual website, which I revamped yesterday. Still overhauling it. It's still in process, but it is in the beginning works of being rebuilt. So have a great day. It's going to be a hot one here in California. We're already at 90 degrees at 8:30 in the morning. So have a great day.